Hello, friends, and welcome back to another episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Today I'm talking to Pam. She wrote a book about traveling with type 1 diabetes. She was diagnosed with type 1 later in life. She's retired now. Awesome conversation. Really enjoyed it. You're going to love it too. That's why we called the podcast what we did today. It's the title of her book. That's just a hint in case you want to go look for it. Please don't forget that nothing you hear on the Juicebox Podcast should be considered advice, medical or otherwise. Always consult a physician before making any changes to your healthcare plan or becoming bold with insulin. I know this is going to sound crazy, but Blue Circle Health is a nonprofit that's offering a totally free virtual type 1 diabetes clinical care, education, and support program for adults 18 and up. You heard me right. Free. No strings attached. Just free. Currently, if you live in Florida, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Ohio, Delaware, Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi, Iowa, or Louisiana, you're eligible for Blue Circle Health right now, but they are adding states quickly in 2025. So make sure to follow them at Blue Circle Health on social media and make yourself familiar with bluecirclehealth.org. Blue Circle Health is free. It is without cost. There are no strings attached. I am not hiding anything from you. bluecirclehealth.org. You know why they had to buy an ad? No one believes it's free. This episode of the Juicebox Podcast is sponsored by the Dexcom G7, the same CGM that my daughter wears. Check it out now at dexcom.com/juicebox. This episode is sponsored by the Tandem Mobi system, which is powered by Tandem's newest algorithm, Control-IQ Plus technology. Tandem Mobi has a predictive algorithm that helps prevent highs and lows and is now available for ages 2 and up. Learn more and get started today at tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox.
My name is Pam Saylor. I've been a type 1 diabetic for 12 years, and I was diagnosed as an adult when I was 52 years old.
Wow, you're 64?
I am almost 64 next month.
Yeah, I'm also almost 54, and I know exactly what you mean. You just asked me something before we started to record, and I said, "Oh, let me hit record first, and then you can ask." So ask your question again.
I said, if I go down some verbal cul-de-sac, can you clip it out? You do edits, right?
What is your concern?
Because sometimes I'll go off on a tangent, and then I reel myself in and go, what was the question? Kind of like I did just now. I want to know if you have editing capabilities.
All right, so there's an editor, but reasonably speaking, we don't cut content.
Oh, we like cul-de-sacs.
We cut, I don't know, if you say something horrifying, we might take that out. I don't know, we probably leave that in too.
Okay.
The editor really does is he kind of takes air out of the conversation a little bit. So if there's if there's a super long pause, you won't appear to pause that long.
Okay.
If you or click your tongue or something like that, that'll come out.
Okay.
Other than that, though, we don't really edit things. So, but I've been doing this a while. I don't think we're going to get into that trouble.
Yeah. How long have you been doing this? Since your daughter was tiny and now she's in college.
So I started writing a blog when my daughter had been diagnosed for a year. So she was born in 2004. She got diabetes in 2006. I started writing the blog in January 2007.
Wow.
Then in 2013, I wrote a book about being a stay-at-home dad.
Right.
While I was out pushing the book, I met Katie Couric. I did her television show. While we were walking off stage, she stopped me to tell me that I was very good at talking to people.
And the podcast host was born.
Well, not for maybe 2 more years. I think I launched the podcast January 2015. And what happened is that blogging just kind of got passé. It was going by the wayside. Like people just weren't reading long form blogs anymore. And I was helping people. Like I was genuinely helping people with diabetes. I knew I was, and they would tell me that I was.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, am I really just going to let this all go? Is it just going to disappear? People are going to stop reading, and then all the good that this has done, it's just over. And then I swear to you, I thought, Oh, Katie Couric said I was good at talking to people. I started what ended up being pretty much the first diabetes podcast that stuck. So there was like some blog talk radio shows before that, but I don't think a podcast.
What I found out, I volunteer for my HOA and I'm the president, so I have to run meetings. And at first, that really terrified me a lot. Standing in front of 30 people answering questions, and you never know what the questions are going to be, that was pretty terrifying. But after doing it 2 or 3 times, I realized it really was not that difficult. And you could pretty much answer any question or just say, I don't know, and I'll get back to you later. So I think the more you try new things, the easier it gets to do it.
I agree. I also think that some people are suited for it and some people aren't.
Yeah, that's probably true. My husband is not a talker, so it would be harder for him. I'm a talker.
I've had people on who aren't naturally chatty, and they do fine, but you have to lead them through it a little bit. I, on purpose, have people on the podcast that aren't media savvy or don't find themselves doing stuff like this all the time because I think it leads to more honest conversations.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. So the way you have to get on this podcast is such a slog that my assumption is when I turn the microphone on your recording time, if you're there, you really want to do this.
Right.
You know, that really is kind of how it gets set up. But anyway, Katie Couric, lovely woman. She's the whole reason I thought to do this. I also loved podcasts back then. I listened religiously to Kevin Smith's podcast called Smodcast, and I grew up listening to Howard Stern. So I'm very much like talk radio, and I like listening to people talk to each other.
I'm a recent convert to podcasts. We sometimes go on road trips, and if you're in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, sorry, I love Kansas, you have to have something recorded, downloaded, ready to go, or else you lose all signal. So we sometimes listen to hours of podcasts on the road.
Yeah, I do the same. Not my podcast, but I listen to other people's still. I really do enjoy listening to people interact. I also like, once you get to know them a little bit, that feeling, you know, that ridiculous feeling you have that you know them.
I think the most important thing is the voice, because there are some people on a podcast and their voice will just grate, or it puts me to sleep. It's such a smooth, low, deep voice that pretty soon I'm nodding off.
A little too old time radio or a little too local news. Is that what you don't? Yeah. I hear you.
A good voice will get me hooked almost no matter what the content is.
I'm most put off by the that ability to make a high pitched, excited comment about the most banal thing. Like, you know.
Yeah, exclamations everywhere in the podcast.
We're at the corner of 5th and 8th. Somebody's built a snowman. Oh my God, Katie, look.
Does everyone see the snowman?
That's why everyone loves Philadelphia. There's snow. Like, just shut up. No one thinks that. You don't think that. Stop trying to make something out of nothing. You know, just talk like a person. But anyway, let's find out a little bit about your diagnosis. So what were your first inklings that something was happening?
My first inkling that I had type 1 diabetes was on a Post-it note.
Really?
Yes. It was my birthday. Coincidentally, I had just turned 52. My husband and I had been on a trip somewhere, and we got back in town, had a stack of mail, and I had a letter, an envelope from my doctor. And I had been to see her in December for routine checkup. So I opened this letter from my doctor, and it was the lab results. Right on top was a big yellow Post-it note, and handwritten on that Post-it note, it said, "Patient has type 1 diabetes. Call office for follow-up." I wish I had saved that Post-it note. I didn't save it. I, of course, flipped out. I didn't know what. I had no inkling. I had to my mind, no symptoms. My daughter was a nurse, so I called her and went through the test results with her. And she told me later that she knew right away that I had type 1 diabetes based on the test results, but she didn't want to spin me out further when I couldn't call my doctor till the next day. So she just was reassuring. So called the doctor, went through more testing, and sure enough, I was type 1 diabetic.
Jeez, that sucks. Do you use Post-it notes still, or have you stopped?
Still do. I have not been traumatized by Post-it notes.
Look at you persevering. That's awesome. I mean, initial thoughts. do you think, oh, that makes sense, my uncle has it, or that doesn't make any sense, I don't know anybody with diabetes?
Well, my maternal grandmother had diabetes. And when I was a kid, I saw her give herself shots with needles that to me looked gigantic. No one ever explained that to me or what she was doing or why. But as an adult, I came to understand that she had type 1 diabetes. But no one else in my family did, on either side of my family. And I had gone 52 years with no health problems, basically. I rarely even caught a cold.
Really?
So in hindsight, the weeks leading up to my diagnosis, my vision was really, really, really blurry. But I just thought maybe it was time for new glasses, or I needed eye drops, or I had zero inkling that this was in my future.
You know, it's funny. I didn't get sick a lot growing up either. And with the exception of autoimmune issues, Arden doesn't get sick very often. And like, you know, it's funny. There must be such a fine line in there between like you have a supercharged immune system and you have a way too supercharged immune system. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I hear people say that a lot. Like, I don't get sick very often, but I have diabetes and I have Hashimoto's and I have like that kind of thing. Interesting.
Right.
I don't know if I'm reading too far into it, but your relation that had it, was it type 2 or type 1? This episode is sponsored by Tandem Diabetes Care. And today I'm going to tell you about Tandem's newest pump and algorithm. The Tandem Mobi system with Control-IQ Plus technology features auto bolus, which can cover missed meal boluses and help prevent hyperglycemia. It has a dedicated sleep activity setting and is controlled from your personal iPhone. Tandem will help you to check your benefits today through my link, tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. This is going to help you to get started with Tandem's smallest pump yet, that's powered by its best algorithm ever. Control-IQ Plus technology helps to keep blood sugars in range by predicting glucose levels 30 minutes ahead, and it adjusts insulin accordingly. You can wear the Tandem Mobi in a number of ways. Wear it on body with a patch-like adhesive sleeve that is sold separately, clip it discreetly to your clothing, or slip it into your pocket. Head now to my link, tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox to check out your benefits and get started today. You can manage diabetes confidently with the powerfully simple Dexcom G7. Dexcom.com/juicebox. The Dexcom G7 is the CGM that my daughter is wearing. The G7 is a simple CGM system that delivers real-time glucose numbers to your smartphone or smartwatch. The G7 is made for all types of diabetes, type 1 and type 2, but also people experiencing gestational diabetes. The Dexcom G7 can help you spend more time in range, which is proven to lower A1C. The more time you spend in range, the better and healthier you feel. And with the Dexcom Clarity app, you can track your glucose trends, and the app will also provide you with a projected A1C in as little as 2 weeks. If you're looking for clarity around your diabetes, you're looking for Dexcom. Dexcom.com/juicebox. When you use my link, you're supporting the podcast. Dexcom.com/juicebox. Head over there now.
It was type 1.
Wow.
It was my mother's mother.
Mm-hmm.
It was type 1 because she gave herself shots. That's what I'm assuming. No one ever really explained it to me.
Long ago, yeah. When you look back at extended family now, like your father's side, your mother's side, is there any like celiac or arthritis or thyroid or any other autoimmune stuff?
No, I have hypothyroidism, low thyroid. I've had it for about 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Both my daughters are hypothyroid. As far as I know, no one else in my family has any autoimmune disease at all. No other low thyroid, no problems in that area at all.
Have you ever had the thyroids checked to see if they're Hashimoto's, which would indicate autoimmune?
I have not, and I don't really understand the difference.
Well, one's autoimmune and one's not. So,
oh, okay.
Yeah. So
no, I've never had testing for that.
Interesting. Your daughters freak out when you got diabetes? Do they start doing the math? Or are they like, I'll be 52 one day?
My oldest daughter did freak out. In fact, when I sent her a text or email telling her, probably kind of frantically, like, oh, this is so awful, this just happened, she didn't reply to me for weeks. And later we were talking about that time, and she said because she was so freaked out that I had type 1 diabetes that she was afraid she would get it. And so she just couldn't reply to my email.
That's something. And you guys did eventually talk about it?
Yeah, we eventually talked about it.
Can I ask what you thought when you didn't get a reply? Was that common?
I think that was about par for the course in our relationship. It's always been a little bit strained. And so, I didn't know what was going on, but I thought, well, she'll get back to me when she gets back to me.
You don't have to tell me about your whole life unless you want to.
No. But that's part, I was not terribly surprised.
Okay. Because I think I would just be very upset if I was like, if I said, hey, I've got a really important question about where to go on vacation and they didn't get back to me, I'd be like, these motherfuckers, what is wrong with them? If you had a situation like that, then I understand.
I was in denial for quite a while. I was angry for a while. I was in denial for a while. I ate well. I ate healthy. I didn't drink soda. I don't have a sweet tooth. I'm not overweight. I'm all the cliches about diabetes that you can think of, thinking this can't be me. This can't be true.
Right.
So eventually you get past that when you realize it really is true. And so you just start to deal with it.
And Pam, you don't smoke?
I did, but I quit 15 years ago.
I was going to say in the 80s or 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody smoked.
Yeah.
When you were younger, right?
Pretty much. My mother did. My father did.
Yeah. Everybody smoked when I was a kid. And nowadays, the truth is, you smell a cigarette outside now and you're like, what? It strikes you as odd.
I know. You realize how gross it is.
I don't know about where you live, but I'm less shocked when I smell weed than when I smell a cigarette at this point.
Oh, I know. That's really true.
Yeah.
And I'm in Colorado, so that's really true for me.
You float around in Colorado, I imagine. Well, that's an interesting one. You're 64. It's legal.
Almost.
Did you try it?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we do from time to time do edibles rather than smoking it because I don't like to smoke it. It's too harsh.
Yeah. Do you use it for recreation or for a purpose?
It's just 3 or 4 times a year. We get out the edibles, put on a movie that we think is going to be good, and just relax. It's more a relaxing thing.
Nice. Oh, that's awesome. Good for you. Why did you want to come on the podcast?
First of all, you don't have a lot of adults on your show. And I wanted to be the adult in the room saying, for anyone like me who is shocked by this diagnosis, you've lived a chunk of your life, and now you think your life is going to have to change. And that was one of the things I was determined when I got my diagnosis. I wanted to keep my life. I wanted to keep skiing. I wanted to keep active. I wanted to keep traveling. I love traveling. And so I don't think there's a whole ton of stuff out there to help type 1 diabetics or people with any chronic disease. How do you travel for 3 months? How do you travel for a long period of time? We all know on a short trip, you pack your little suitcase with a pile of supplies and you're good to go. But if you're going to travel for a month or 2 months or a year, like my husband and I did when we went to Europe, I wanted people to know that's doable. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a book about how to do it. I learned as we traveled, and I just want to encourage people to keep their life and not let type 1 diabetes be something that makes you sit on the couch in fear or worry.
Well, that's awesome. Had you ever written a book before, or is that your first?
No, that was my first book.
That's awesome. What's it called?
It's called Braving the World, Adventures in Travel and Retirement.
Oh, that's awesome. What made you think I could write a book? Because I wrote a book, and it's hard. I'm going to just say it's not a lot of fun. That's the first thing. And it's not like you don't do it for the money. And, if you're famous, maybe you would write a book for money, or, if you're getting paid off by, because you've been in government. But if you're just a person writing a book, you're not going to make a bunch of money. It's incredibly hard to market them.
Yes.
The publisher, generally speaking, does not help you with the marketing very much, which is a thing people wouldn't know. Like, I got myself on the Katie Couric show, and it's time consuming in a way that's hard to put into words, and you really get lost in it. How long did it take you to write it?
Oh, it took over a year, and we traveled to Europe for a year from 2017 to 2018. And then we got back, and we all know COVID was in 2020. And I'd already started the book when COVID happened. And really, it was great because I had nowhere to go. There was nothing I could do. So I could work on the book.
Yeah.
And I started to pull it together and polish it. I took writing classes, which helped me a lot to polish the book. So if COVID hadn't happened, I might not have had the discipline to sit down in my chair day after day and put together this story, which I start at the beginning when we land in Rome and we finish up in Venice. So COVID is maybe the reason I wrote the book.
Yeah. So you're writing and you realize I have to take a class if I'm going to do this well?
Right. I thought it helped a lot. It helped me figure out the plot and things to leave out and how to build drama, how to build, interest. The writing classes, there's a local writing group school here in Colorado, and I went to several classes there as I was writing, and that helped me polish up the book a lot.
Did you have an editor or did you do it all on your own?
I did. Yes. I had a great editor, and she took out all of the duplicates. And when I went off on a tangent, she would calm me down or correct the language. She was wonderful. She was great.
I'm going to ask a question at the risk of sounding like a snob. Did someone approach you to write? Did you write it and then sell it? Did you self-publish it? How did you get it into the world?
I wrote it and then I self-published it and I self-promoted it. So I've been on another podcast. I've had reviews from different indies. My book has won a couple of awards, which I can't think of off the top of my head, but
that's funny.
Independent Publisher Review Awards. So it was well received and it's for sale on Amazon. So it's out there. I've sold, I don't know how many books, but it was a labor of love. It's got a lot of information about traveling.
It's awesome. I'm looking at it right now. It's really awesome. I'm on your website. All right, Here's a link where I can buy it. This will get me to Amazon, will it? Click here, yes.
And there are pictures on my website of our travels, and I talk about the different things about traveling, little blog posts about how to ski with diabetes. That was a learning curve.
Tell me about that, because you were a skier your whole life?
Yeah, I was a skier, starting in my 30s. I learned to ski and loved it. When you're doing any sort of exercise and you have type 1, you're never sure what to do with your settings. Like, should I go into activity mode? Should I lower my insulin? Should I increase it? And it was always pretty tricky. But I didn't want to quit skiing. I didn't want to sit at home. There was a time period where no one skied. That was during COVID. So when I went back to skiing after that, it was a relearning curve. But it really helps to have the sensor, Dexcom sensor, and the insulin pump help a lot.
Mm-hmm. What did you find once you were diagnosed as far as direction from medical people? Did you find it to be valuable, or did you find that what they said left you more confused than when you started?
At the time, we lived in Kansas City when I was first diagnosed. And my doctor's office, first I got rid of my general physician and switched to a new doctor because I think type 1 diabetes deserves more than a Post-it note. Yeah. But then when I started going to an endocrinologist, they had a team and they had a diabetes educator who really helped get me going, get me started. Of course, I was doing MDI at the time. Mm-hmm. She helped a lot. And the only really bad tip she gave me was she told me when you're ready to eat, don't take a dose, don't take a shot until the food is in front of you. Oh. And of course, now we know you have to bolus about 15 minutes or so ahead of time. But at the time, that's what I was doing. I was waiting to see the food, try and calculate the carbs, and then I would take my shot.
Push the plunger, start eating right away.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you get high and stay high for a while and not know what was happening and all that went along with it.
It took me, I would say, I've been 12 years. And the first 5 or 6 years were very difficult because I'm an organized type A person. So for the first 5 or 6 years, I was trying to control diabetes. I was trying to figure it out. I had lists, I had charts, I had graphs. I was trying to figure out why a piece of toast on Monday would not affect my blood sugar and the same piece of toast on Tuesday, and I would go high. And it drove me crazy. So I'd try and track it. And I would try and keep track of what I ate when I ate it. And I would take these charts and graphs to my doctor's office. And eventually she just looked at me and said, "Do you really think you can control this disease?" And I'm like, yes, I do. But she convinced me that's really not possible. And so for the last 5 or 6 years, I still want to figure things out and keep track of things, but I go with the flow a lot more. If I go high, I just try and deal with the high. If I can look back and figure out why, that's good. But if I can't figure out why, that's fine too. It doesn't matter. I still have to deal with the high or the low. So I think I've been a lot calmer, a lot happier the last 5 or 6 years. I see people on Facebook pages and they're still in the phase of trying to figure out every little thing. And maybe that's useful for them, but I find it much more relaxing to let some of that control go.
Where does this attitude lead you for your A1C?
I'm usually about 6.0 or 6.1.
Oh, it's awesome. That's really great. You might enjoy the pro tip series from the podcast.
Oh, I've listened to some of those.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, bump and nudge has been really has helped me out a lot.
Oh, awesome. That's great. I like your attitude too. Like, it's funny because I think people could hear you talking right before I asked your A1C and they'll be like, oh, here it comes. This lady's got an 8.5 A1C. You're saying like you were making yourself crazy over the little things.
I was.
Yeah, no need for that. That's for sure. But I don't agree completely with the doctor that you can't figure out most of it. But I do take your point about the the Monday toast thing where you're just like, well, MON, what does that mean? But day is day. The sun's up during the day. The sun's high in the sky. I'm high because day is, I know what you start doing that. But
it's like trying to read tea leaves.
Yeah.
Sometimes you just don't know. And the bottom line is you still have to take a shot or take a chug of soda or eat a piece of toast to bring it back up. So you just it's better to know how to deal with it.
I have to tell you that the reason that I've boiled the idea of diabetes down at its core to timing and amount is because I think it applies to all the situations. If your blood sugar is too high or too low or not where you want it, you at some point use the wrong amount of insulin or timed it incorrectly, or maybe a combination of those two things.
Mm-hmm.
So now when you're thinking about it, it can be as easy as, well, my blood sugar's high, but I used enough of a pre-bolus. That doesn't make sense. And I didn't get high till 45 minutes after I ate. And, I didn't know that fat could make your blood sugar stay high.
Right.
Then you learn those things and apply them along the way. And before you know it, I find most people are doing great, but you're also doing awesome.
What I do quite often is I'll guesstimate carbs.
Oh, yeah.
And take a shot. And then when I go high later, I'll actually look up the carbs, or I'll look at the box and I'll go, oh, yeah, that wasn't 20 carbs. That was 40 carbs.
My daughter's at college. I sent her a note yesterday that said, did you eat a bag of sugar? And she goes, no. And I responded, I went, 2 bags? It's like, she goes, I think I miscalculated. I was like, yeah, it feels like it to me too. But she got it under control, to your point. Didn't freak out. It was a shitty blood sugar. It went up to over 280. It really shot up. She just missed the mark completely. And then she gave herself more insulin and got it down without getting low. And, the whole process took 3 hours, but, she's not running around beating herself up about it. And I think that's where you're at.
I have to remind myself, though, pretty often not to be reactive, because when I see that arrow going up, it's hard not to jump on your phone and go, insulin.
Yeah.
So I have to look at my watch and go, 15 minutes, wait 15 minutes, maybe an hour. To force myself to wait, because my instinct is that up arrow needs immediate attention.
I don't 100% think you're wrong with that. You should listen to the rest of that pro tip series. But I know your idea of it just jumped up for a second and then you go hitting it with a bunch of insulin. It was too much. That's obviously not what you want to do either. But if you didn't use enough insulin and it's flying up, you do need more. And I take your point. It's a lot to figure out and to try to get through, especially I think, I don't want to say it like this, because I don't think of you as an older person, but because it came later in your life, is it a thing? I'm trying to decide if you're look, I really just got to make it 30 years. You know what I mean? Do you ever think that way about it?
I'm encouraged by the fact that there are a lot of type 1s out there that have been fighting this disease for decades. To me, I don't think it's going to limit my lifespan, but I am really grateful I did not get this disease as a child. I just feel so sorry for children who have to grow up this way. I'm glad I didn't have to.
Yeah.
When I see a little 2-year-old, in a photo who has a pod on their back, that's just sad.
Yeah, that's tough. It really is. I was just wondering if you were I think of myself as in the last third of my life. I think of life, you know what I mean? I think of life birth to mid-20s, then mid-20s, like to like, when your kids leave for college, and then like, the rest. I'm like everybody else. I overestimate myself and everything else. And I think like, people live till they're 85. And
sure.
Then I saw my mom in her 70s and her 80s, and I was like, oh, this is not what I was picturing. I started to say to my wife, my mom passed a year or so ago, and I told my wife, I was like, I am going to treat the next 15 years as if they are my last 15 years. Now, I'm not planning on just like shutting off at the end, but like I'm going to pack all the things that I thought I was going to stretch over 30 years into 15, just in case, like,
just in case
my hip stops working or I get cancer or something like that. I'm just going to be a little more proactive about it. Cause if you're like me, like I got married, I had kids, I spend my time trying to make sure they're okay. And you feel like, well, you'll get to a spot where everything will be settled and then you'll just like coast. But I mean, it doesn't sort of work that way. And you don't realize that till it's a little late.
I look at it like I want to travel more. I want to travel a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And probably I figure I have 10 years where I can do that fairly easily.
Yeah.
And then after that, lugging those suitcases around is going to be harder. So I'm like you. The next 10 years, I want to travel more. I don't want to skip a year. I want to keep going because I know after that, mid-70s,
who knows?
It's going to get harder to travel. Now, I know I have 75-year-old friends who are active and busy, but I also have some that are sitting on their couch and have breathing problems. You never know what you're going to get when you hit 70 or 75.
We make the biggest mistake of measuring ourselves against the luckiest people. You know what I mean? Like nobody,
because we want to be them.
Yeah, right. Nobody says like, it's always, it's funny. I said local news twice in this one, but like, once a year, there's just a 100-year-old woman on the news celebrating her birthday. She's smoking cigarettes and eating pound cake with another hand. And you're like, that's it right there. Like, I'll just live to 100 and smoke cigarettes. Look at it. But she's the one it happened to. It's almost like being upset with LeBron James. Like, he just got lucky. You know what I mean? Like, you don't get to sit around and aspire to that. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, cigarette in one hand and a glass of wine in the other hand. Yeah. How did she do that?
On the news. And she's cursing and people are like, it's your birthday. She's like, leave me alone. She didn't even give a shit. And you're like, oh God, she's going to live for 10 more years. But we look at that and we think, oh, we all live that long. It doesn't work that way. So
that's what we think is going to happen. Now, secretly, I think my husband anticipates I will die before him because I have a chronic disease. And so sometimes I'll joke about that.
He's holding on. He's like, I'm going to get 1 year by myself. By the way, he'd be miserable, but go ahead.
I joke about that and it's like, oh, so are you going to remarry? And he'll be like, no.
Yeah, I'm definitely not doing that. We do that here. Everyone thinks I'm dying before my wife all the time. Every time it comes up, I think they're just trying to pick at me, but they're like, you'll die before mom. And I'm like, oh my God, like, is this how we're talking about this?
Because men usually do.
I know, but I was a stay-at-home dad. I'm almost a lady. Guys should get some breaks somewhere along the line. You know what I mean? I have a neighbor who's a decade or so older than me.
Mm-hmm.
They said to me recently, I don't want this to be about politics, but they were like, politics aside. And I was like, yeah, they go, we're very excited for how well those Tesla cars seem to be driving themselves.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, that's a weird thing for an older person to be paying attention to. And then she said, because we think that might be our only way where we'll be able to travel one day is if the cars can drive themselves.
Really?
And I thought, oh, wow, how about that? And these are very mobile people up doing things all the time. But they're closer.
We use Ubers a lot when we travel.
Yeah.
Uber is all over Europe. It's everywhere. And trains and buses, of course. But yeah, when we go overseas, we never rent a car. Mm-hmm. We never drive. We use public transportation or Uber.
Yeah, it struck me because it's a thought I've had before. Like I've said to my wife, I hope they really figure out that self-driving thing because it's possible that we'll get to an age where like, we'll just think like, oh, the kids are only, 40 miles from here or a day, a couple of hours, but we can't do that. Like, imagine if you could just get in a car and be like, hey, here's the address. Let's go. Now, by then you'll be old. You'll push the wrong button. You'll end up in Poughkeepsie. You're like, what happened? But it's funny because when she said it to me, my response was, oh my God, I've never heard anybody say that before. I've had that exact same thought. Like, I hope they figure out this self-driving thing so when I get older, I can get around.
This should be a poll. Like, how many people have ever thought that in their life?
I bet you. I mean, if they're not paying attention, first of all, I've seen it work like in videos and stuff. It's astonishingly well. I would imagine another couple of years, the way AI seems to be able to like learn and double itself and everything, like maybe you'll actually get there where your cars will just be like, hey, where do you want to go? So
yeah, it's very possible.
Yeah, I'm excited. And also it really does make you feel like maybe I could extend just that mobility a little longer.
Mobility and activity and keep going.
Yeah. It's just the thing you don't think about when you're younger. Hey, I wanted to ask you, this is going to seem like a left turn, but did you get any bad reviews? How did you handle them on your book? Like one where you read it and you were like, oh God, why do they hate me so much?
No, I didn't.
I get them all the time. That's why I was wondering.
60. Well, I have 50 or 60 reviews on Amazon. I think they're all pretty good. There might be a stinker in there, but I don't remember reading them. Maybe I skipped over them.
Yeah, you're smart. I read mine when I wrote my book.
Ooh.
Yeah. Someone genuinely hated me. And they didn't just hate me, they hated words for existing so that I had access to them. They were very, very upset. It was tough because my first 8 or 9 professional reviews, because my publisher sent it out for professional review first, came back really strong. And then reader reviews started coming back really strong. And then I think I must have caught this is just, obviously I wrote a book and I'm great at it. And I don't think that. I don't think it's some awesome book or anything like that. But then one of the reviews came back and it was just like, it's not really what it said, but what it felt like it said is, I hate him. I hate words for existing so that he could use them. I hate his family for knowing him. The person really didn't like me. And it took me back.
Yeah, there are trolls out there. I had some of my friends, beta readers. I had some of my friends read the book before it went out.
Yeah.
And my friend's mother said that this was a bad review, but she said, this is a trite book that I don't see the point of, or something like that.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm thinking. That's
and
what I'm talking about.
my friend didn't want to share that with me because she thought I'd be hurt. And I just thought, well, you don't have to like it. That's fine. Thank you for your input.
It's not War and Peace. I didn't say it was.
I know. I think it has a lot of valuable information people who travel will want to know, but there you go.
What I've learned is that a book is content, just like, just the digital world. We think about it differently now, but nothing's ever for anybody. I mean, I promise you, Pam, there are people listening to you and I right now who hate me, and they're doing something called hate listening, which is a thing I cannot wrap my head around at all, but they just listen to see how right they are to not like me. That's awesome. By the way, their downloads count just the same. It just is what it is. What I've learned is, this is me. This is how I think about this. Here it is. You like it, that's great. If it helps you, that's awesome. If you don't like it, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not really sorry, but I'm sorry I couldn't be for you, but I don't know why you're still here, I
was in a book club for 20 years, and every month we'd meet once a month, and every time half the people loved the book and half the people hated the book. And it was never the same people, and you would shift allegiances. And so I really understand that you're never going to get 100% of the people to like something you've done. I mean, if half of your book club hates Steinbeck and Hemingway, you're not going to get a rave review from everybody.
Yeah. I interviewed a 24-year-old girl yesterday, and I was stunned. I was like, you like this podcast? I was like, you must not understand any of my references. She goes, I don't understand most of them.
Because she's young.
Yeah, right. She just doesn't. Well, here, this will be funny. She mentioned how bad her doctor was, and I said, any chance that doctor's name was Dr. Bombay? See how you're laughing, Pam, because you've seen Bewitched. And she was like, what now?
No, that's not his name.
But when I pressed her, I was like, why do you like this? And she's just like, I don't know. I just like listening to you do this. I'm like, okay, great. So you can't, I would never target a 24-year-old recent grad and be like, I think you're going to love me. But she does. So who cares why?
Yeah.
I can't understand why. If you're out asking people for their opinion, then, they're going to give it to you. But I'm not asking you for your opinion. If you don't like it, just stop listening. There's so many things in the world I don't like. I've never once sought the person out to tell them. What an odd thing.
I think maybe I've left one bad review in my life, and it was for a book that was really, really bad, and I hated reading it. And probably quit at page 30. Bad reviews take so much effort. I'm surprised people do it, but I think you're right. There are a lot of haters out there.
I can't wrap my head around it. I don't understand listening to something I'm not enjoying. I don't have that kind of time, first of all. But like something I'm not enjoying. There's one podcast I have to listen to for a professional reason. I shouldn't say more because 19 different people are going to think I'm talking about them and I'm not. I don't like one of the announcers, but the information's so good, I just live through it. And I've had people say that about me, by the way, which is like, I hate that guy. I love what they talk about. So I'm like, hey, whatever, right on. I'm doing my best over here. So let's talk a little bit about the process. Like, you decide to write the book, but are you writing it in hindsight from experiences you've already had, or do you go out and have new experiences with the idea that you're writing a book?
Before we left, I kind of had the idea that I could write a book about this, or that I might. And so I kept a diary journal, and I took photos, and I sent, to keep in touch with family, I would send a group family email once a month. It kind of summarized what we had been doing. And those were really valuable when I went to write the book, because they were immediate sensations of what was happening at the time. Mm-hmm. So when I came back, I had these notes and an idea, and I started writing. And as soon as you start writing, you start cutting. So it was like add some, cut some, keep shaping it, I guess is the word. And taking classes along the way, which helped enormously. And sent it out for people to read it and give comments, sent it out to reviewers online to give comments and reviews. So it took at least a year. And like I say, COVID helped because there was not a lot else to do.
Yeah. Did you ever get feedback that you were just like, I know that's not right, I'm going to ignore it?
Yes. I mean, yeah, there were some things where I didn't want to include it in the book because I thought it wasn't part of the theme I wanted to develop. I was developing 3 themes. Mm-hmm. One was my husband and I had just retired. So what is it like to now be on top of each other 24/7, traveling in a foreign country where neither one of you knows the language?
Yeah.
If you don't have a good marriage, that could kill you right there.
You're in trouble.
And then I wanted to talk about diabetes, how I could buy insulin in Italy and Croatia and London for around $50. And that's a month's supply. Just walking into a pharmacy with a paper prescription, and it doesn't cost a fortune. I wanted to write about my experience with diabetes. And the other theme was just traveling in general and how fun it was to travel and the things we got to see.
Yeah.
So if something was outside of my 3 themes, I didn't have to mention it. I could downplay it. I could shift it around. So yeah, you have to shape it.
That's awesome. So what was your finding, like traveling? How did you manage the supplies needed for months and months of being away?
We planned the trip for about a year, and I started stockpiling supplies right away. And I did that by, my doctor would write a prescription a little more than I needed each month. Mm-hmm. And I would go back every 30 days like clockwork and pick up the extra supplies. And I just kept doing that until I had probably a 6-month stockpile of insulin, vials, pens, test strips, everything I needed, pods. So when we left the country for our year, I had my carry-on suitcase was full of nothing but diabetes supplies. Plus I had a beer cooler with ice in it where all my insulin was. So that got me out of the country. That got me going for about 6 months. When we got to Rome, the first place we went, I found out that I could go to the Vatican pharmacy with a paper prescription, and they would refill that prescription. And they took the prescription, scratched their heads, and came back with a box of pens. They don't have vials there. Mm-hmm. So I took the pens. I knew I could fill my pump with those. And that added to my stockpile. And our next stop was Croatia. And all I had to do there was take my paper prescription to the pharmacy, and they filled it, again with pens. They didn't have vials. So I left with a stockpile. I added to my stockpile every chance I could, even though I hadn't run out of supplies yet. Mm-hmm. The only thing I couldn't get were my pods, because Omnipod doesn't mail the pods overseas.
Okay.
So I had them mail the pods to my daughter in Colorado. She packaged them up. And by then we're in Croatia. She packaged them up, mailed them to me in Croatia. And the Croatian customs office would not deliver them to me. And I got a notice in Croatian, which I got help translating. And it basically said something about you cannot get medical devices in Croatia. They would not deliver it. They sent it back to Colorado. So I went back to MDI because I was out of pods, flat out. And MDI, then we moved to London. And I had my daughter mail the shipment of pods again, this time disguised as books. And they made it through without problem. And so I went back to the pods after a couple weeks of MDI.
Let me ask you a sneaky question. Did they know it was medical supplies because she declared them as medical supplies, or did they?
Yes. In Croatia, she called them medical supplies or devices.
Yeah.
And somehow that set off alarm bells.
Yeah. I would have said, that's a brick in there. Just relax. I'm mailing bricks to people. Calm down. What do they say? It's easier to ask for, easier
to ask for forgiveness than permission.
That's exactly right. Awesome. So, wow. So you just also, I'm going to assume it's the daughter who did respond immediately to your text about the diabetes, not the other one.
It's my daughter. Yes, my daughter, the nurse, who responded right away.
I was going to say, you didn't put the other one in charge of sending you the diabetes supplies.
I did not. So, but the problem with shifting, I didn't know at the time, when you go from MDI to a pod, it's really easy to overdose on insulin because there's some residual, insulin in your system. So first day, I've got my new pods. I pop one on my arm.
Oh, yeah.
We go out about our day and get home later that night. And, I'm on the couch. My husband goes to the bedroom to read. He comes out an hour or so later, and I'm unconscious on the couch. He does a finger stick, and I'm at like 20 or something. He gives me a shot of glucagon, which revives me enough that we can go to a London emergency room. And waited, seemed like forever, got to see a doctor who didn't know what was going on. I didn't know what was going on. They sent us home, and I kept my insulin really low settings and was afraid to go to sleep, but eventually went to sleep. And when I finally got back home and explained all this to my doctor, she said, well, what you should have done, you have to set your pod settings for the first 24 to 48 hours of shifting back to a pod. You have to keep your numbers really low, your settings. I didn't know that. And so I had this emergency room experience in London, which cost me nothing. I never got a bill for that.
Awesome.
And the next day when we went back to the hospital to refill the glucagon, they didn't charge me for that because healthcare in Europe for, a lot of people is really, even tourists, it's not that expensive.
How about that? Yeah. So basically you were shooting your basal, and then with active injected basal insulin, and you threw your pump on it, and it started running your basal profile too. So you had double basal. Double basal put you out. What's your basal rate?
Well, I don't know what it was at the time. I don't know off the top of my head.
What is it now?
What is it now? My basal rate? It shifts throughout the day.
Are you on Omnipod 5?
Oh, yeah. I'm on Omnipod 5.
Okay.
And the Dexcom G6.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's great. What kind of injected basal were you using? Was it
Novolog, I think, at the time?
No, basal. Levemir, Lantus.
Levemir.
How about that? Isn't that something? We couldn't get Levemir to last in my daughter for 18 hours even.
Well, I was breaking it into two doses. So I would do a morning and an evening dose. So I had done an evening dose, next day got up and put on a pod.
So now that this has happened to you and you have hindsight, you look back and you go, oh, that's so obvious. How did I miss that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sucks. Well, at least your husband didn't do what I thought he was going to do, which is come out and see you unconscious and go, ha, I told you I was going to live longer. He actually helped you. It's nice.
He saved me.
He didn't go, I told those suckers I wasn't going first. It's so weird that you talk about that when you get older, but you do. So get ready if you're getting older. At some point you start looking around, you go,
you start joking about it.
Yeah, how's this going to happen? Are we all going? I hope we all don't go at the same time. That'd be horrible. I don't want the kids to die before me, but I don't want to die. You start doing it's terrible. Yeah. Anyway.
Although diabetes, this is kind of grim. So
yeah,
but if you had some terminal disease, which our country doesn't really help you deal with very well, I think a large dose of insulin might be a solution to a long, slow, debilitating, grinding disease.
Is that a thing you've thought about?
I'm sorry?
Have you thought about that?
Oh, I have.
Yeah. A lot of people do. They don't talk about it very often, but when you pick through with people and get deep enough with them, they will tell you that they've considered that idea if they should ever get into a bad situation.
Right.
Yeah, sucks. It all sucks. Listen, Pam, the whole thing is terrible. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like, my daughter's doing really well, but there's just no doubt in my mind that if she didn't have diabetes, that a burden that would be lifted off of her would be immense.
Well, I'm talking about a chronic cancer diagnosis or
no. Oh, I know. I'm just saying that's not a thing. Like
Alzheimer's or
the average person walking down the street doesn't think like, oh, I hope I don't get Alzheimer's one day. But it doesn't matter because if I do in my refrigerator, that's not a thing most people get to think about.
I think once you have a chronic disease, you think about your health more and you think about how's this going to end more.
Well, you definitely think about your health more. That's for sure. Is it maybe just the first time in your life it's actually like the conversations come up in your head? Like, I wonder how this ends.
Oh, yeah, because I've never really had anything. I've never had illnesses. I haven't been sick very much.
Yeah.
Even now I have diabetes and low thyroid, cholesterol. So I don't have a big stack of pills I have to take every day.
Yeah.
So
still doesn't seem that huge to you, or does it?
It doesn't.
It doesn't. Now, also, at your A1C, you're probably healthier than most of the people walking the planet. So I think that's the thing that it's hard to be excited about. But like once type 1 says to you, you have to pay attention to yourself and you do it, you come to realize like, well, I am now in charge of, gauging a thing, making adjustments to something that other people just walk around.
I know.
Unaware that's not good for them until it's too late. So
I'll watch some TV show where people are digging into these dishes of potatoes and rice, and I'm going, you can just eat that, can't you? You can just eat it and shove it in your mouth.
But some of them can't.
Think about what's going to happen in an hour.
Yeah, but Pam, some of them have type 2 diabetes or prediabetes, and they don't realize it.
That's true.
And they just, listen, what's a thing you don't hear anymore? You remember people used to say like, oh, after Thanksgiving dinner, everybody gets sleepy. It's the tryptophan in the turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess, hindsight, it's the high blood sugars everybody had. Like, I don't doubt that tryptophan is whatever the hell tryptophan is, but you didn't have 8 ounces of turkey and you passed out for a week because of it.
Right.
Probably so many people living with prediabetes, for type 2, and then drive their blood sugar high after a big meal and they don't realize how sleepy it makes them, et cetera, and so on. Like, there is value in getting type 1 in that it focuses you on your health like that.
And what you eat and how much you exercise. If you're paying attention, you have to pay more attention. I have a friend who's type 2 who does not really do anything to take care of his diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And he's type 2. If I had the option of dieting and exercise to make the needles go away, I would be all over that. So to me, it's just mind-blowing that you have a type of diabetes where you could take a pill and watch your diet and exercise, and you choose not to do that.
Could help, yeah.
I don't get it.
Well, there are people who have done that and it doesn't help, but like...
True, but you got to try.
Yeah, right. If you're saying this person's just like, I guess this is how I go, then listen, I don't think it's a willful... I probably sound like a hippie now, but I don't think it's a willful thing where people are just like, I just don't feel like taking care of myself. I think there's a psychological thing going on that freezes them. And I'm sure it's different for a lot of people, but something about the way you grow up or something that happened to you or didn't happen to you when you needed it to. And now suddenly you have trouble motivating yourself or caring about yourself enough, or maybe your blood sugars are so high that you're cloudy and you can't even like focus on, like, who knows? You know what I mean? Like, it does suck. But for sure, if somebody told me like going for a walk around the park would make my daughter's diabetes go away, I'd push her out the door.
Yeah. Now I'm going to be trying to figure out what his motivation is to not take better care of himself.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I guarantee it's not conscious. I spend a lot of my time on this podcast asking people why they do things. And I'm telling you, no one knows. No one knows about why they do anything. They think they do, or they, it makes me mad or this or that. But that's not like, why does it make you mad?
My off-the-cuff diagnosis, now that you've brought this up, I've thought about it a bit, is that he's a person who's always been a take-charge person, in charge of the family and the finances and whatnot, and he doesn't see himself as a sick person. And if he doesn't act on it, then he can continue to not see himself as a sick person.
I've heard that story from people. Just, I'm going to pretend it's not happening because I don't want to look like I'm sick. I've heard that one.
My image of myself I don't want to change my image of myself as a healthy person. So I'm not going to deal with it.
Listen, taken a massive amount of crap online and other places for, like, I started taking a GLP medication like over a year and a half ago. And this morning I got on the scale and I am, I lost another 2 pounds. I've lost 56 pounds in a year and a half.
Wow.
My life is completely different now. I am healthier, happier. I feel better. I sleep better. I breathe. Everything. I do everything better than I did a year and a half ago. And yet I'll still run into people once in a while that'll be like, "Whoa, so you just cheated, huh?" Yeah. I cheated. I took the medicine and I stayed alive. Good for you. Well, how is that someone's reaction right there? It's fascinating to me. Like, not, "Hey, congratulations," or "You look great," or "This is awesome," or "I'm glad to hear you feel better," or whatever, or just don't say anything.
They probably want to lose weight too, and they've been slogging through diets their whole life, and it does seem like you've taken a shortcut.
Yeah, but even when it's not about weight for them, that idea of like, you did something that I don't have the option to do, or, or they make a moral judgment about it. So they're like even like, listen, you earlier said like, I'll take a gummy a couple times a year and chill out. There are going to be plenty of people who be like, you could have gone for a walk or done some deep breathing exercises. You shouldn't be doing weed, or like, but it's just doing weed. Look at me. I
think these are just more of the haters we talked about earlier. The people who are going to leave a bad review, the people who are going to make sure that that they don't like your book. There are those people out there. And I've been on a GLP Ozempic for about a year and a half. And
have you?
I've lost 15 pounds.
Good for you.
But now since it's not prescribed or recommended for type 1s, after the first of the year, my insurance company is going to look at that, and it's likely they won't renew it because I'm not in the category of person who should get it.
For weight loss?
Or weight loss, but it also helps with your numbers, supposedly. But it's not really prescribed for type 1s.
No, I know. We have an awesome group of episodes about GLPs from this year. But what I was going to tell you is that if your weight is still over where your insurance company will cover it, just switch to Wegovy.
Okay.
You'll be getting Ozempic and Wegovy are the same exact thing.
That'll be my tip for the first of the year. We'll see what they do.
Yeah. If they say no to it, just tell your doctor, like, look, just write me Wegovy for weight loss then. Also, tons of great episodes on the podcast about GLP.
I wish I'd lost more weight. You said 56 pounds. That's amazing. I've only lost 15 and now I'm stuck.
Did you have 56 to lose?
No, probably another 10 pounds would put me right in the range of where I want to be.
What's your dose at?
2 units a week.
2 milligrams or you?
2, right.
Yeah, is that how it's measured? I'm forgetting how the Ozempic pen is measured.
Yeah, I think that's a max dose.
Yeah, so when you use it for weight loss, the doctor has the autonomy to continue to push your dose up until you're losing weight. I use Zepbound, which is from a different company, but I'm on like 12 and a half milligrams a week.
Oh, okay.
I'm telling you right now, like, woo, let's go. Yeah, I'm almost done. I was talking to a friend yesterday who's like, "What's left?" And I was like, "There's these used to be 3 handfuls of fat around my midsection. There's 2 now." I was like, "It's like once they're gone, the rest of my body's actually transformed already. Like it's just right here."
I think you're right about how it changes your life. I feel more active. I go to more exercise classes. I mean, carrying around 10 or 15 pounds of extra weight, it's difficult.
It's terrible. Like my joints are better. My ankles, yes. I used to have plantar fasciitis. I don't have that anymore. My back doesn't hurt. My back used to hurt all the goddamn time. My back doesn't hurt anymore. I sleep better. Also, like other things that you might like this podcast, by the way, Pam, but there's other things. For instance, like I used to have to get iron infusions all the time because my body, I wouldn't absorb iron from my diet. But now that I'm on a GLP, I get all the iron I need from my diet now. And I haven't had to have an infusion in almost 2 years.
I think eventually most people will be on GLPs because they have so many awesome side effects, awesome results. And I don't think they've found any bad side effects yet.
There's people like have issues like with everything. And there's a couple of reasons why they're, scary about giving it to type 1s. One, for reasons that they don't completely, I don't even know if they completely understand or not, but you're at a higher likelihood to go into DKA. Part of how it's going to get prescribed to type 1s, if they get the prescribing set up, is going to be that you have to have a ketone meter and check your ketones. Like that's going to be one of the things. That's
something I don't do very often at all.
One of the things they're going to do. The other thing is that it can significantly change your insulin needs. Like look at you, like you just tried to switch from MDI to a pump and you almost killed yourself.
Yeah.
Imagine if you yak yourself up with GLP and all of a sudden your insulin needs are down by half and you don't know that and you're not, being directed well by a physician or don't have support or whatever. Like those are the things I think they're bigger concerns about. That's my expectation.
Right. There needs to be a lot more education and maybe intervention if you're going to do GLPs and understand how they work.
That education extends to the doctors who, generally speaking, aren't going to understand any of this. So,
well, I don't think there are as many diabetes educators anymore. It seems harder to get help.
I've heard that, by the way, that they're having trouble, that there's not as many endos, diabetes educators, stuff like that. I think there's not enough money in it. I get a lot of information
off of Facebook from people who are more experienced than I am. And sometimes a little tip, which you have to think of, you can't just take anything you get off of Facebook at face value. You have to think about it and work through it. But there have been some really valuable tips there where people who have been doing this for decades, longer than I have, know more about it than I do. And they help me clarify my thinking on what I need to do.
Yeah. Have you found my private Facebook group?
I have not.
You should. It's got 50.
Done the Juicebox Podcast Facebook group.
There's a Juicebox Podcast Type 1 Diabetes. It's a private group. It's, I think at this point, like 56,000 members. It does like 125 new posts every day. There are a lot of people in there to answer questions.
What? I have found that. And a lot of those are younger people. It seems to me, just off the thinking back to when I was reading that. And there are a lot of daily posts. You really get buried in that pretty quickly.
Pam, may I? You've said this twice now, so I'm going to dig into this before I let you go. Also, I don't know if you said this while we were recording or not, or if it was when we first got together, but you were like, "Is this really going to last an hour? I don't imagine I could fill an hour." We're over an hour now, in case you're wondering. Yeah. So twice now, like once you said, "I haven't heard a lot of older people on the podcast," and like, so let me tell you something that you probably aren't seeing. So are there more parents of kids than adults with people with diabetes on the podcast? Maybe, but I don't imagine it's more than about 60-40.
Okay.
And the Facebook group also might feel that way, but they're there. They just don't talk as much. So it's not as heavy one way as I think you think it is. There are a lot of adults there.
There are lurking adults on the podcast and Facebook group who are tuned into it, but they don't always speak up or show themselves. Yeah.
They're not as inclined to be involved. Like, are you, like, you're 64, like you didn't grow up with the internet, right? So
I did not.
Yeah. Are you inclined to just jump online and start telling people how you feel?
I will jump online and ask questions or reply to some people who are asking for information. Yeah, I'll jump online.
Cool. That's awesome. It's not a lot of people, that's not a gear a lot of people have, actually. That ability to it's more now, obviously, because kids are growing up with it. They have fewer difficulties with it. But generally speaking, it's not a thing that people easily do. It's interesting. I've seen some really cool studies about how difficult it is for some people to actually just post something online.
No, I like the internet. There's a lot of information out there. I don't know how we got along without it, but most people say that nowadays.
Yeah, no kidding.
We had to actually go to books and encyclopedias to look up facts instead of just Googling.
Damn facts. Let me tell you, I'm going to give you something here, and then I will let you go because you must have a life you have to get back to.
I do.
Try episode 1212 and 1238.
Okay.
Dr. Tom Blevins on GLP medications, part 1 and 2. I think you'd find those really interesting.
Okay.
All right. Just a really thoughtful guy on GLPs, and he will answer your questions for sure.
Great. Thank you.
Pam, thank you. Tell people the name of your book again, please.
The name of my book is Braving the World, Adventures in Travel and Retirement. And I have a website at pamsaylor, SAYLOR.com.
Go check it out. The book's blue. It's got a piece of blue luggage on the front of it in case you're looking for it and you can't find it. Pam, thank you for doing this with me. I really appreciate it. Dexcom sponsored this episode of the Juicebox Podcast. Learn more about the Dexcom G7 at my link, dexcom.com/juicebox. Earlier, you heard me talking about Blue Circle Health, the free virtual type 1 diabetes care, education, and support program for adults. And I know it sounds too good to be true, but I swear it's free. Thanks to funding from a big T1D philanthropy group, Blue Circle Health doesn't bill your insurance or charge you a cent. In other words, it's free. They can help you with things like carb counting, insurance navigation, diabetes technology, insulin adjustments, peer support, prescription assistance, and much more. So if you're tired of waiting 9 months to get in with your endo or your educator, you can get an appointment with their team within 1 to 2 weeks. This program is showing what T1D care can and should look like. Currently, if you live in Florida, Maine, Vermont, New Hampshire, Ohio, Delaware, Missouri, Alabama, Mississippi, Iowa, or Louisiana, if you live in one of those states, go to bluecirclehealth.org to sign up today. The link is in the show notes. And please help me to spread the word. Blue Circle Health had to buy an ad because people don't believe that it's free. But it is. They're trying to give you free care. If you live in Florida, Maine, Vermont, Ohio, Delaware, Alabama, and Missouri, it's ready to go right now. And like I said, they're adding states so quickly in 2025 that you want to follow them on social media at Blue Circle Health. And you can also keep checking bluecirclehealth.org to see when your free care is available to you. Today's episode of the Juicebox Podcast was sponsored by the new Tandem Mobi system and Control-IQ Plus technology. Learn more and get started today at tandemdiabetes.com/juicebox. Check it out. Okay, well, here we are at the end of the episode. You're still with me? Thank you. I really do appreciate that. What else could you do for me? Why don't you tell a friend about the show or leave a 5-star review? Maybe you could make sure you're following or subscribed in your podcast app. Go to YouTube and follow me, or Instagram, TikTok. Oh gosh, here's one. Make sure you're following the podcast in the private Facebook group as well as the public Facebook page. You don't want to miss, please. Do you not know about the private group? You have to join the private group. As of this recording, it has 51,000 members in it. They're active, talking about diabetes. Whatever you need to know, there's a conversation happening in there right now. And I'm there all the time. Tag me. I'll say hi. The Diabetes Variables series from the Juicebox Podcast goes over all the little things that affect your diabetes that you might not think about. From travel and exercise to hydration and even trampolines. Juiceboxpodcast.com. Go up in the menu and click on Diabetes Variables. Hey, what's up, everybody? If you've noticed that the podcast sounds better and you're thinking like, how does that happen? What you're hearing is Rob at Wrong Way Recording doing his magic to these files. So if you want him to do his magic to you, wrongwayrecording.com. You got a podcast? You want somebody to edit it? You want Rob.